Hey everyone, this is Jeremy, and today we are taking a look at the Dracula character from the Unmatched system of games. So Dracula is one of the four fighters from the Cobble and Fog set. The Cobble and Fog set has a lot of Victorian literature characters on it there. So we have Dracula, the famous vampire. He is here with his three sisters. We have left-looking sister, right-looking sister, and ugly sister. Oh, it's not fair to call her ugly sister. Let's go ahead and take a look at his character card here. Dracula, he is a melee fighter with a health of 13. 13 is actually pretty low. That's the lowest that your non-gimmicky fighters go. He has a move of 2, which is pretty standard. At the start of your turn, you may deal 1 damage to a fighter adjacent to Dracula. If you do, draw a card. Things to take away from the way that this is worded is that number 1, if you do deal the damage, then you do draw the card, so you have to think about that. If it's getting late in the game and you don't have a lot of cards left in your deck, you may not want to do that, even if you are adjacent. Number 2, it says you may deal 1 damage to a fighter adjacent to Dracula, so that could be any fighter. It doesn't say opposing fighter, it just says to a fighter, which means if you felt like sucking the life out of your little 1 health sister here, you could do that, and you could sacrifice a sister to draw a card. I don't know if I'd ever get desperate enough for a card to sacrifice a sister, but there may be a reason to do that. I'm gonna start off right here. Bang! Let's go ahead and go to the big nasty beast form. An attack of 6. During combat, you may discard any number of cards from your hand. This card's value is +1 for each card you discard. I mean, this is a 6, which will go past pretty much any defenses that anyone has. Outside of defenses that have effects that would allow them to bring it up. This is a really awesome closing move, that you can drop that in there and just, dump your hand and turn this into like an 11 or something ridiculous. Feint will stop you from being able to add to it, but 4 damage is still going to get through on a feint, so that's not an automatic way to get through it there. You would probably be more likely to see a feint if you have a lot of cards in your hand, because they don't want it to turn into something big. If you have relatively few cards in your hand, they may play some other defense. You do at least get to see what they play before you add all the other cards to it, so you know what you're going to be dealing with there and know how much you're going to be able to get past. There are 2 beast forms in the deck. Interestingly, all of the Dracula specific cards all come in pairs. Next we have Feeding Frenzy, an attack of 2. This card's value is +1 for each sister in the same zone as the opposing fighter. So this could get potentially ramped up to a 5 if you were able to get all of these sisters around them in the same zone, not necessarily adjacent, but just in the same zone. So that's where you can see already that Dracula's sisters are starting to have a lot of effects for him, and a lot of his strength is going to come from those sisters. Do my bidding. This is a defense of 3. Immediately return your opponent's attack card to their hand. Look at their hand and choose an attack or versatile card for them to play. It may be the same card. Alright, so this one here, a few things to take on about this. Number 1, there's not any way to cancel that as your opponent, that an immediate defense happens before anything else. So this card is going to get through, and you basically just sticking their card back in their hand, looking through their hand and seeing what else you want to play. Now, a lot of times you're tempted to just go ahead and play some small attack that you can defend with this one, and that's one way to go about it. You may be willing to go ahead and take the hit, go ahead and play in one of their attacks that they're not really prepared for you to do yet. So that would be one thing that could happen there. Additionally, you might want to get one of their versatiles, something that they would want to use as a defense, and put that out there as an attack and have them wasted as an attack. This is very commonly used to draw out feints and go ahead and use the feint as a an attack. Next, we have another defense card. Look into my eyes. A defense of 1. During combat, add the boost value from your opponent's attack card to the defense value of this card. So this card here is just straight up just taking whatever their boost value is and adding it to this so that it will be something stronger than a 1. Generally speaking, higher value attack cards tend to have higher value boosts on them. So this does tend, for the most part, to scale up. Times when this can be bad is things like a momentous shift, or Sinbad's Voyages, or Alice when she is large and attacking. Prey Upon. This is a scheme. It's a scheme with a boost of 4. You'll see that Dracula has pretty high boost values in his deck. Deal 1 damage to all opposing fighters adjacent to Dracula. Dracula recovers 1 health for each damage dealt. But we can see if he has a lot of opposing fighters around him or around his sisters that he can really do a lot with that. Another Dracula scheme, Baptism of Blood. Recover 2 health. So once again, a lot of health recovery here on this guy. And return a defeated sister, if any, to a space in Dracula's zone. So we've got 4 health here, which is pretty much just kind of a straight up auto health that you're going to get. And then Prey Upon, you should be getting at least 2 health out of that, but it'd be nice if you could get another 4 out of that. So he could have something like, 8 to 12 health that he could heal up if you play things and position things right. And we will get into Dracula's last scheme here. Dracula is quite a schemer here. Mist Form. Place Dracula in any space, gain an action. So this just lets you pick up and move wherever you want on the board and still have your 2 actions to do the attack afterwards. So this is another one where the timing on this can be really great. I think generally Mist Form is meant most of the time to be used to pair with some attacks so that you can pop right up next to someone when they weren't anticipating it and just jump in there and attack them with something big, like let's just go straight from Mist Form to Beast Form. It is a little bit telegraphed when you do that, but if you hang on to this card to when you think your opponent doesn't have a lot of defenses, it can really be quite powerful for Dracula to be able to just pop right up next to someone. As long as there's still a Mist Form out there, they can't ever really just hang around with low number of defenses. Your opponent kind of has to keep some defenses back because they're just always scared that Dracula could just show up out of nowhere. Now you can see a good chunk of Dracula's deck is taken up by Dracula here. That the sisters have a lot less of the deck that they can use because of how many of them actually go with Dracula here. So speaking of the sisters, let's go ahead and get into them. Gonna have these 3 cards here. Thirst for Sustenance, an attack of 3. After combat, if you won the combat, place Dracula in any space adjacent to the opposing fighter. Now this is another way that you could get Dracula right up next to someone, would be to, when they're next to a sister, attack with the sister, and then if you win, bang, Dracula just pops right up there next to you. Now, it is not really common here to win when you are attacking with a 3. And this is just place Dracula to the opposing fighter, so it doesn't require adjacency. So if they move, Dracula would still be able to pop up next to them, even if they're no longer adjacent to the sister. One important thing to remember on this card: if you won the combat, place Dracula in any space adjacent to the opposing fighter. It does not say you may place Dracula in any space, which means that if you do win this combat, placing Dracula in a space adjacent to them is mandatory. So it's just important to remember that if you're really not wanting to bring Dracula up next to them, you may want to think twice about that card. Another set of 3 cards here, because I suppose there are 3 sisters. Ravening Seduction. Move any fighter up to 2 spaces. After moving, deal 1 damage to the moved fighter for each sister adjacent to them. Okay, so this right here should pretty much just be like a minimum of 3 auto damage there. You should not be playing this unless you're just late in the game and really needing a pass pretty terribly. You should not be playing this when you're not going to be able to get some damage off of it there. But still, if you can pull off 6 damage and schemes, that will be really awesome. So with just these 2 cards, these 3 copies of those 2 cards that the sisters have, they could do quite a bit for you. And that's in addition to some of the interactions you have with Dracula's cards. All right, going into the innies. First one we're going to get into is Ambush. This is an attack of 2. During combat, your opponent discards 1 random card. Add its boost value to this card's attack value. And that's going to be a little bit random as far as what that will do on there. And it will depend on who you're playing against and which cards you just happen to grab out of their hand. This can really be a very punishing card because you're making them lose a card out of their hand, which is always bad. And you're going to end up attacking them with, if this isn't fainted, it's going to be at least a 3. A lot of times you would get a 4 out of it pretty easily. If you're playing against the right character, and this happens, you could end up getting all the way up to a 6 with it. Exploit. This is a versatile 4, and by the way, we are now into officially our first versatile of the deck here, because none of the sisters or Dracula cards are versatiles. It's a versatile 4. After combat, draw a card. It's a versatile 4. It doesn't need like really awesome effects on it there. It's a 4. Dash. There are 3 copies of Dash. Versatile 3. Move your fighter up to 3 spaces. And to finish it out, Feint. Versatile 2. Immediately cancel all effects on your opponent's card. So what can we see in this here? Well, while the sisters are very important because of a lot of the cards that they have here, they really don't have a whole lot of defenses. The sisters are going to be fairly weak. It's pretty much just going to be these versatiles here is all that the sisters have to defend with. You might be more willing to use some of those defensive innies, being that Dracula has 4 pretty solid defense cards on his own there, but the sisters are going to be a little prone to be attacked and dying just because of their relatively low number of defenses. Most fighters are not going to run up to Dracula and take that 1 health damage that he gets from his ability unless they're really ready to hit you with something. So you got to be prepared if they're running right up next to you. They probably got some defenses ready because they know they're already going to take 1 health hit because you're just going to ping them for a damage there. But also they know you're going to be turning around and double attacking them. That is, of course, excluding the ranged fighters who will just sit back and hit Dracula from a distance. There's some others that can have weird interactions with him, like Bruce Lee will probably, like, unless you're just really wanting to for some very niche situation, is just not ever going to end up next to Dracula, because he is just going to always back away. And you got someone like Beowulf that if you go pinging him, he's going to gain rage off of that. So you got to think if that's a good idea to do or not. But I think probably your cards that take the most thought on timing is going to be Mist Form and Beast Form. You've only got 2 times that you can do that on both of these. And Mist forming up right next to someone is going to be a pretty telegraphed play that something big is coming. So you got to find the right time for it. But anyway, that is my look at Dracula here. What are your thoughts? Is there something important here you think I left out? You can go down into the comments and let me know about that. You can give this video a thumbs up and a like, and you can also subscribe to my channel and take a look at all the other videos that I have, the other fighter reviews, the other content that we have from the recent tournaments, and just the other general Unmatched videos, so that you don't miss any of those. We'll see you around next time.